In this video, I'd like to take a first look at the Covenant abilities that are relevant to my classes of choice. You know all those videos that I published, guys, recently about my classes of choice, melee DPS, range DPS, all-rounder kind of choice for Shadowlands? Well, I have a few now at the top, and I'd like to now finally take a look at what Covenant abilities are awaiting my classes there in Shadowlands. So that is what today's video is going to be about. It's going to be a bit of a theory crafting video based on Wowhead's summaries of the spells. Things are probably going to change on live realms in Shadowlands when Shadowlands launches, but speculation is fun. That's why we're doing this today. Let's do this. So first, let's start by reconfirming what classes and specs are now on the short list of mine to perform those different roles or jobs in Shadowlands. So first of all, as you may have seen from the previous videos, and you should watch them to get some context on my selections, DK, the Unholy and Blood specs are going to be my go-to default kind of choice of a class to solo adventure in Shadowlands, do different kind of things like that in Shadowlands, simply because of how fond I am of DKs and how well I think they fit into the fantasy of the upcoming expansion. Then there are Demon Hunters, Havoc spec specifically, because I'm a big fan of how Havoc performed in Horrific Visions, and I'm just a big fan of how dumb and how easy and enjoyable from that dumbness perspective Demon Hunter Havoc spec is. Then there is Paladin, both in Protection and in Retribution spec. Paladins are very enjoyable. I love Paladins. Protection was my weapon of choice, as I said, when it came to tanking in BFA, and Retribution recently kind of emerged in the process of me leveling one. As an alt, kind of just to entertain myself a little bit. Retribution is quite enjoyable too, so Paladin is definitely on my radar. Then there is a BM Hunter as another boring but kind of classic choice of a solo player who sometimes wants to switch gears and not be challenged by the environment and do the face roll and still do well against any sort of elites and any solo content that would be challenging for a class that's not built for that. Then it is Enhancement Shaman for me. Enhancement Shaman is wonderful in many ways, a little more complex to play, a little more buttons than I would like, but Enhancement Shaman are definitely high on my list to try in Shadowlands. And finally, it's my ranged DPS of choice, Affliction Warlock, who performs really well even in my not very skilled hands. So there you go. So we have 6 classes of choice, so we are going to be looking at the abilities, Covenant abilities, that are only applicable to these 6 classes. I do apologize if you are interested in other classes, and I am not so much. So talk to me in the comments down below. As always, guys, subscribe to show support to the channel if you haven't already, but you sounds like this is your cup of tea, and I will see what I can do. If you specifically, a lot of people would be interested in a particular class that I did not express my opinions on in relation to their covenants, to the other kind of stuff. Yeah, so if you watched my previous recent videos that I mentioned already, those list videos of class choices, you'd know that these choices, they were made based on my experience with these classes as they exist in the game right now. These choices were made before PTR of patch 8.0 was released. Please pay attention to that. I now finally have access to taking a sneak peek at what's happening in Shadowlands, or what will be happening with these classes in Shadowlands. So I'm simply going to stick to this list, and I'm simply going to make no current apologies for my choices, even if I am right now in the background in the process of reviewing these changes on PTR as finally accessible to me. So let's just stick to this list for now, and then if some of those changes need to happen to my choices, then you will surely know about this as some of the people who are hopefully subscribed to my channel to not miss any further videos. So let's take a look closer at the Covenant abilities for each one of my classes of choice, current classes of choice. We'll go through 4 covenants. It's going to be a very simple format, and I'm just going to express my subjective, very currently theoretical rather than proven kind of experience with those abilities, and we'll just take it for what it is. Yeah, how about that? We'll start with the Kyrians. All right, let's take a look at the Kyrians and see what they have to offer us, my friends. So, DKs get Shackle then Worthy. Admonish your target for the past transgressions, reducing damage they deal to you by 5%. Okay, I'm not going to read the full text. I'm just going to get the flavor of this and then pass my judgment. You will see in a second how I'm going to do it. Demon Hunters get Elysian Decree, which puts a sigil at the target location and detonates to deal damage. Alright. Hunters get Resonating Arrow, which basically allows you to do damage to them, ignoring line of sight. Interesting. Paladins get Divine Toll, which instantly casts Holy Shock, Avenger Shield, or Judgment on up to 5 targets. Okay, that's on 1 minute cooldown. Alright. Shaman gets some complex Vesper Totem. At the very least, it reads complex to me, but as I already expressed my opinion on Shaman, they are a more complex class to play with lots of dynamics there and the kind of synergies of spells, whatever, lots of buttons as well. So that is why Shaman is not at the very top of my list, but it's interesting enough for me to consider. And Warlocks for Kyrians, they will get Scouring Teeth or Tithe, whatever. Deal arcane damage instantly and then some over time. Okay, if the enemy dies, then you generate 5 soul shards. Okay, that is not bad. That is quite interesting. So here is my judgment. Shackled and Worthy reads boring to me. That is all I'm gonna say. Again, take it with a huge grain of salt, guys. Please. I do not know. I haven't tried these abilities. I'm not claiming to. I'm just doing fun speculation today here. Elysian Decree for Demon Hunters seems situational, but not particularly exciting. Hunter's Resonating Arrow, the one that lets you ignore line of sight, seems situational and not exciting. Paladins kind of shoot the main key spell that you're using to 5 targets as an AoE basically on a 1 minute cooldown. Okay, yeah, I'll take it, but it doesn't mean that I'm super excited about it, but it seems usable and seems like something I'd be very interested in. I'd rate it high-ish. Shaman seems complex to me for my liking. They sort of lost me halfway through trying to read the full description on Wowhead. By the way, all credit for these kind of little snippets goes to Wowhead. Good job, guys. So Shaman is situational, and Warlock Regenerating Shards seems quite efficient, but again, arguably not very exciting. Not for me anyway. So that is what it is. Based on that, I am gonna pass my very subjective judgment, not to trigger anyone, but that's how I'm gonna run the rest of this video. In a word, I think that Kyrian's abilities, for my selection of classes, please pay attention to that, that's important, is Kyrian choices are boring. There are some situational abilities, but nothing that would make me go, wow. So if I had to invent on the fly this system of rating of these covenants for me, for my choices, based on how many more or less exciting, or at the very least interesting abilities I see in this covenant selection right now, I'll rate Kyrians as 1, at a 1. As in, only 1 paladin ability out of my 6 classes of choice would probably benefit directly from being a Kyrian. I could be wrong. Tell me in the comments down below, but this is how I was spontaneously planning this speculation. But I welcome discussion, and as I always do, guys. Now, let's move on to... Oh, did I forget to mention Kyrian's signature ability? I'm so sorry, guys. It was not here in my notes, and it was so rubbish that I did forget about it. Signature ability of Kyrian's is Summon a Steward. Call a steward to bring you a file of serenity that can be consumed to restore some of your health and remove all curse, blah 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 blah. On 5 minute cooldown. Like, this is the most horrible, most unexciting, most rubbish thing I've ever heard of in my life, and I hope that they will change it, because this is horrible. Did I say horrible? Okay, excellent. Let's move on to Necrolords, my friends. Necrolords are a different cup of tea, at least from the perspective of my classes. DKs get that ability that I was talking about in the review of the classes and my choices of classes. That's something I saw in other people's videos, and that's what I'm very, very attracted to. Abomination's limb. Sprout an additional limb. How awesome is that? For 12 seconds. That's not very long, but okay. Every 1 second it deals damage to all nearby enemies and pulls an enemy to your location if they're further than 80 yards away from you. It doesn't have a cost. It has 20 yards range, it's an instant cast, and it's on 2-minute cooldown. This is an example of a wow ability as far as I'm concerned. It's something that visually and dynamically transforms your character and makes me excited. It makes me excited, and let me remind you, my friends, that I don't care if something seems a couple of % higher on damage output than other abilities. I want to be excited about an ability. I want it to be useful, damaging, whatever. I don't want it to be useless, but all these higher seeming things, they are for boring people, and I'm not boring people, okay? And I encourage you not to be. I trust that you are not. Demon hunters get fodder to the flame, commission a duel to the death against a condemned demon, blah blah blah, vanquishing the demon releases demon soul, blah blah blah. Board. Hunter gets a death chakram, throw a chakram, okay, on an instant cast on a 45-second cooldown that does damage. Okay, not bad, not bad. Paladin vanquishes hammer, throw a hammer to your target, dealing spell damage and empowering your next ability depending on your spec. Okay, that's not bad. Shaman get a primordial wave that basically, depending on the spec, allows to apply a certain effect, like Flame Shock, for example, or Riptide, to a group. So it turns a key spell into an AoE. Okay. And Warlock gets a Decimating Bolt, which I know the description didn't fit all into this snippet, the cutout, but the gist of it is that you hurl a bolt at your target, dealing shadow damage and increasing damage of your next 3 abilities based on your specialization. Now, coming to my judgment of this, DK, I already said, it's great. Cooldown, I say, is a bit long, but 2 minutes, I guess, is not too long. I just wish for 12 seconds of activity, cooldown was even shorter. Even shorter. Demon Hunters, summoning some demon to kill the demon to get a temporary buff, seems like a hassle to me. Too complex, don't like it. Hunter's Chakram, seems good. Seems good. Extra button to push, which is not always making me excited. Definitely needs testing. Paladin sounds okay, but boring. Shaman, this AoE effect on your primary skill, I'd say, again, it's boring and repetitive design, but as far as ability, as far as, again, efficiency of this thing, I think it's pretty good. Theoretically, once again. Warlock, look, it's a buffing bolt. It's a buffing bolt. You shoot it, it buffs your previous abilities. I think it's boring. Personally, I'm not excited about it. Their signature ability is Fleshcraft, which makes me excited as well. So you form a shield of flesh and bone over 4 seconds that absorbs damage equal to 20% of your maximum health for 2 minutes. Channeling near a corpse claims the essence to grow the shield up to 50% of your maximum health. This is most effective against powerful enemies. It's interesting, especially if you are blood in blood spec, but I think it's cool also for unholy, also for any other spec of a decay, because it gives you extra protection. Like, what's bad about that? It's great, I think. Let's summarize. Okay, so this is, as I said already, and as I think it comes across, I think this is where things are looking up. It is obviously quite fun for DK, very promising for hunters, so-so for Pally, Shaman and Warlock, I'd say. I am not too moved by the Demon Hunter's ability and Warlocks, but overall, I'd say, all in all, I'd give it a solid rating that we just made up of 4 against my personal selection of 6 classes. So it's fairly useful to me, choice of Necrolords, looking like at the moment. But we still have two other covenants to look at, guys. Next, we're going to be looking at Night Fae. Oh yeah, let's do this. Night Fae, Decay gets Death's Due, which replaces Death and Decay. Can I just say that when something replaces something, I'm genuinely a fan of it. Because as you know, I don't like extra buttons. because I don't have extra fingers. Yeah, think about it. So this will drain power from each enemy within an area, reducing their damage done by 10%, not bad, and increasing your strength. Okay. Demon Hunters, apparently this is a pretty fun ability. So you charge to an enemy at a huge distance, the hunt, inflicting quite a bit of attack power, damage, nature damage, rooting them in place for 3 seconds, pretty good. And this also marks the target for death, or not for death, sorry, that's my own making of the statement. It marks the target for 1 minute, increasing your fury from demons' bites and shears against them. And you may reactivate even Hunt every 30 seconds to teleport behind the marked target. So they are really like, they can't get away from you. It is on 3-minute cooldown, which I think is longish, but if it was shorter, I think it would have been completely OP, considering how far you can charge and that the target cannot get away from you. So in some sort of PvP situations, I think this would be ridiculous. That's what I think. Ridiculous. Hunter gets Wild Spirits, evoke the energy of Wild Spirits at the target location, applying Wild Mark to all enemy targets, increasing damage you deal to them by 5%. Oh. Okay. Paladins, Blessing of Seasons, and again only a part of this spell description was cut into these windows that I was able to produce here. Fairly crudely, I might add, but I was trying, guys, I always try for you. There are multiple blessings. Example here is Blessing of Spring, which you bless an ally for 30 seconds, increasing their healing done and healing received by 10%. Sorry, whatever, doesn't matter. Point is, these are extra blessings. Okay. Shaman gets Fey Transfusion, transfer the life force of up to 4 enemies to the targeted area, dealing damage to each enemy. Pressing Fey Infusion again will release all damage from Fey Infusion, healing up. Blah, blah, blah. As always, you understand that with Shaman, the design so far is something that, to be honest with you, is not doing any favors to Shaman. In my eyes, in my personal eyes. Again, I'm a fan of enhancement. Will I play it? Absolutely. But everything that they get is complex as far as I'm concerned. Complex. No, look, I'm not an idiot. I'll work it out. But it's too complex for level of giddy-ish enjoyment. That is all I'm going to say without apologizing too much for my preferences. Warlocks get Soul Rot. Wither away all the life force of current target and up to 3 additional targets nearby, causing them to suffer nature damage. For next 8 seconds, casting Drain Life will cause also drain life from any enemy affected by Soul Rot. Okay, let's take a look at how it rates on my personal scale. Decay, not bad. The Hunt looks great. OP, CD is a little bit long. Wild Spirits for the Hunter is very meh. Paladin sounds meh, but needs testing. Shaman way too complex to be enjoyable. And Warlock, AoE Drain Life, okay, or even maybe better than that. So I'm actually okay with the Warlock's ability here on Night Fae. Where Night Fae is relatively amazing, and where they get a lot of points kind of in the background in my mind, is in their signature ability, which is called Soul Shape, that surely you would have heard of. It is basically giving a druid-like travel form to any classes that normally would not have a travel form, which is awesome, isn't it? I think it is anyway. So what this does really is it turns you into like a fox-like thing, teleporting you forward and increasing your movement speed at the same time. You may reactivate it every few seconds to teleport again. It lasts only 12 seconds and it is on 1.5 minute cooldown, which I think is a bit long to take proper advantage of this, but you apparently can stay in this form indefinitely in a rested area, so like in town. Also, what didn't fit into this description here in the cutout that I'm showing you is that I think there are also multiple forms of this Vulpin. You don't always have to be a fox. Apparently you can have multiple ones. I don't know if it's random, I didn't read enough into it, admittedly, or if it is something that is by choice, like Glyph or whatever they're gonna do there. Alright, so what is my opinion on this? My opinion on this is that Night Fae appear like the most visually pleasing covenant to my eye. that is one thing to point out, but that's not what we're necessarily reviewing as far as abilities are concerned in this video. From the abilities perspective, I'm sure that a lot is hidden in the context and how the ability will really feel in the game. But as with any other covenant, we are looking at today and lining kind of these abilities up for my classes of choice. I would not say that I'm particularly moved by any of the Night Fae ones except this signature ability, the Vulpin one, the one that we just talked about, because it gives you this animal-themed teleport and runs speed increase. Of course, for like slowpoke classes like Death Knights, this signature Soul Shape ability will be a very, very welcome movement boost. But then for someone like Druids or someone like Demon Hunter, it probably would be almost completely irrelevant other than just for variety. A little bit of variety, but not enough variety as the missing new shapes for Druids that they somehow didn't decide to implement in Shadowlands. I'm still dumbfounded by why they didn't. All in all, on this relative scale that I just came up with of rating covenants against my classes, I'd give Night Fae my abstract rating of 2. Finally, my friends, Venthyr. DKs get Swarming Mist. A heavy mist surrounds you for 8 seconds that increases your dodge and does some shadow damage to enemies. Okay. Demon Hunters get Sinful Brand. Brand an enemy with the mark of Venthyr, reducing melee and casting speeds by 30%, not bad, and inflicting shadow damage over 8 seconds. Activating Metamorphosis, applies Sinful Brand to all enemies. 1 minute cooldown. Hunter gets a Flayed Shot, which causes them to bleed, shadow damage for some reason. Okay. Each Flayed Shot deals damage. You have 15% chance to get Flayer's Mark, causing your next kill shot to be usable on any target, blah blah blah. Okay. Paladins get Ashen Hallow. Hallow the target area for 30 seconds. Every 2 seconds the enemy in the area suffers, blah blah. Shaman, Chain Harvest. Send a wave of anima at the target, which jumps to additional nearby targets, deals spell power damage to 5 enemies, restores spell power health to 5 allies. Okay. Warlock, Impending Catastrophe, calls forth a cloud of chaotic anima that travels to the target enemy, dealing 100% of spell power, shadow power, blah 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 blah. Okay. Let's just take a look at this. DK, not moved by it. Venthyr doesn't look too bad. Hunter looks kind of actually quite great because it's only 30-second cooldown, Flayed Shot ability, you know, it's an instant cast shot. More instant cast shots with bleed effect and all that kind of stuff. It's not bad. Paladin, Ashen Hallow, look, it seems good. It actually seems good, but cooldown seems a little bit long. Shaman, actually, as much as I'm kind of dismissive a little bit in this context of Shaman abilities, it's actually not too bad. Doesn't read too bad to me, personally. And Warlock is also not bad. Where, again, Venthyr shine and Unknown as a potentially good covenant is in their signature ability that is on a fairly low cooldown of only 1 minute. Door of Shadows. Went through the shadows, appearing at the target location. It's a teleport, okay? And from Preach Gaming videos that were reviewing Torghast runs and stuff like this, and I think this Door of Shadows was nerfed a little bit. I don't know in what way, but I think I heard it was nerfed. It is an OP teleport. It is an OP teleport where you can teleport anywhere as long as it's in your line of sight. Like, it's not like Warrior's Charge that kind of needs a very straight line where the game can plot a path through. You can just like jump from one ledge to another ledge. Like, it's actually very, very good. Apparently very, very good. So let's summarize Venthyr. I think they offer very interesting OP sounding signature abilities. I just said, this cool teleport, yeah. But kind of Demon Hunters get the only ability really that will probably shine in PvP and tanking. Hunter's Flayed Shot seems okay. And then there are a few not bad ones, I guess, that need testing in game. This is where kind of the theory crafting part, I guess, becomes a bit of an uncomfortable stretch for me to continue speculating, that I just choose to kind of pass quick, early, and kind of heavily disclaimed judgment on. and move on. Like, not, I wouldn't dwell on it for too long, because really, like, this is where some people who are in beta can take my judgment apart, and I want to just keep it fun and light touch at this stage. Overall, I'll actually give Venthyr a 3, rating of a 3. And this is where we're kind of coming to the conclusion of this very stretched theory crafting video that I tried to tie to my personal class choices that I announced in the earlier videos, and I hope you found it a little bit of fun, guys, or maybe it sparks some discussion in the comments that I always love and enjoy to have with you guys, especially if you have more to share, especially if you have tested more than what I'm talking about here. So, from the usefulness of Covenant abilities perspective, that was always the topic of this particular video and an angle that we were going to stick to, the winner for me are Necrolords, across the board, across all my 6 classes. Necrolords, congratulations. Then I would go with Venthyr, followed by Night Fae, leaving Kyrian for the last. Obviously, one would make the decision based on what alt they're playing, as single ability of a particular Covenant could feel OP or super duper fun or useful for that particular alt that you and I would be playing. And that one decision could trump any of this discussion, any of this speculation, because surely you will be making these choices of Covenants based on that individual kind of preference rather than across the board looking at all of these abilities. That's why this system was always flawed but fun regardless. I enjoyed kind of recording this little script and recording this narrative for you guys anyway, in case you want to know that. It's also worth mentioning another very obvious thing, that each Covenant comes with a bunch of other factors, such as cosmetics that they offer, their Sanctum event. Like, I probably won't be choosing Venthyr simply because of the stupid Highborn Party hosting minigame that I've seen reviewed by Preach on his YouTube channel not long ago, and it's definitely not for me. And the other elements, such as the Covenant travel network, soulbinds, storyline, etc, that I don't even know, I haven't even touched it. So what it's worth, though, you know, as always, we are just trying to have fun speculation here, and I encourage you to take this video for what it is, just as that fun speculation, with the resulting opinions of my own that might change once I had actually a chance to play my classes in Shadowlands and see how these abilities actually feel. Let me know in the comments down below the video how you feel about the Covenants, what you read, any information you consumed, maybe some thoughts that I shared that resonated with you particularly. I would love to hear what you think about these guys, because all we have for now is the fun of speculation and anticipation. Once again, my apologies to my people that I'm not reviewing every class in this particular video, but that was exactly my point, to focus the discussion on what I'm personally interested in and welcoming your feedback on other things that you may have, you know, discovered. Your requests for content are very welcome as well. I don't promise that I'm gonna make a video, similar video about rogues or something, sorry, rogues, but you get my drift here. So I'm hoping that our interest will overlap, at least in some areas. Maybe you're interested at least in one of my classes. I hope so. Please subscribe to the channel to show your support if you like this kind of content, guys. Some of my videos are when I'm on the screen the whole time. Sometimes I do this semi-scripted, but this one was kind of mostly scripted, a little narrative, because I needed to take a lot of notes. I needed to talk to you about these abilities, wanted to quote some of them to you. And I hope you enjoyed it to some extent. Like the video, tell the YouTube algorithm that you like the content that I'm producing, so that YouTube promotes the videos to more people and brings more people to our little campfire in the woods, so to speak. The more of us, the merrier. Subscribe if you haven't already, as that's the most important metric. I really appreciate your support, and I never take it for granted. All right, thank you very much, guys. I'll be talking to you again, as I always do, in a couple of days' time about something else World of Warcraft related. Bye-bye. Talk to you soon.